Not too long ago, I entered my late 20s. I realized that I've actually gotten less scared of inching closer to the big 3-0 than I was, say, towards the end of college. I remember my first birthday after graduating. I really didn't want my family to make a big deal out of it. Well, that was actually my mindset towards my birthday for a while now, but even more so from that day onward. It was almost like I didn't even want to acknowledge it. It felt like a countdown had started, like my days from now on were numbered, and there wasn't much left to look forward to. But what exactly made me afraid to begin with? And what changed my outlook on it? There are probably other reasons people might not want to turn 30, but to sum it up, it mostly comes down to societal expectations and physical condition. Sure, more responsibilities in general does play a factor, but that's something that comes with adulthood in general, so I'm not really gonna unpack that. Also, just as a disclaimer, I'm speaking purely for myself while citing anecdotes from people I know. I do not claim to speak for everyone my age or who are currently in their 30s. Now then, I guess to start off, the biggest thing that must have made me fear reaching 30 was, well, there isn't really any other way my stupid brain can describe it other than the pipeline. Something the adults of my childhood really failed at was giving me confidence for the future. It was the people in their 30s who lectured my 8th grade class about how eventually we'll have to put down our video games and start thinking about the future. Realistically though, I don't think any of us could have possibly prepared for this. Or this. They made becoming an adult sound really unfulfilling. Like the only thing that mattered was becoming a cog in the machine. Just a big checklist of things you need to get done before you turn 30. Make X amount of money, own a house, buy a car, get married, start a family, force your kids to go through and continue the same cycle. Gee, no pressure, huh? I've pretty much always felt like I was behind growing up. The idea that this feeling would continue even into my adulthood just made it worse. I also watched more anime in my teenage years than I do now, and it was always common for little bratty kids in those shows to call women in their 20-somethings old hag. Like, yeah, haha, it's all fun and games at first, but then you start to realize how many archetypes there are of women desperate to maintain their youthful shine. A lot of shows and films in general also like to depict people in their 30s as people who really let themselves go. This usually means gaining some weight and ending up at some boring and/or miserable job. It's no wonder why I was scared of reaching 30. In a lot of people's eyes, 30 is the age where you gotta lock in. The no going back point, if you will. If you haven't achieved your dreams by then, you're just an NPC for the rest of your life. However, adulthood standards in general were already changing by the 2010s, to be completely honest. Playing video games as an adult was more acceptable, and lots of young adults were starting their careers in YouTube content creation at the time. It may not have been taken seriously by everyone back then, but it was still a step up. By 2020, a lot of the young adults I looked up to were now in their 30s. When I was a kid, I associated the 30s with miserable office workers, doctors, and other sophisticated people. Now when I think of people in their 30s, I think of people like Cybershell, and he's easily one of the most fun and entertaining people to watch in my opinion. That's when it really hit me that, yeah, everyone who likes the stuff I like are adults now too. And realistically, most other people aren't really gonna care what your interests are, nor should they. Hell, even playing something really kid-oriented as an adult like Pokemon is acceptable now, because it's sort of become a family activity at this point. Dude, parents playing Pokemon with their kids, it's honestly a wholesome sight. Anyone who says if you're 30 and still like X, you're a weirdo, are either stupid kids on the internet or just really insecure about themselves. I've also been told recently that not much changes physically going from your 20s into 30, so long as you take care of yourself, at least to some extent. You don't even have to work out every day or anything super intense like that. I don't consider myself a health or fitness guru by any means, but I've gotten pretty far with just running and core exercises 3 days a week. I don't know if there's any way to avoid joint pains or other health problems for your entire life, but the best mentality to take with it is, I'd rather not start having them now. So yeah, exercise is pretty neat. Appearance and complexion, I can't really give you any advice. You can't see it, but apparently I look pretty young for my age. I used to be a manager at a store, and I got told by a customer, "You don't even look old enough to work here." That's just how I look. I didn't do anything to make it happen. From what I understand, the younger generations don't smoke tobacco as much, which helps us look younger, apparently. And look, even if you don't have a baby face like me, you can go a long way with just having a good sense of style. Just dress the way you feel, style your hair the way you like, shower every day, and you're good. A lot of it comes down to self-care and individuality. No one's trying to look like the 30-year-old housewife anymore. I guess the real root cause of this anxiety towards aging comes from comparing ourselves to others so much. We all know the trap people tell you not to fall into, where everyone else is more well off than me. It's not a tendency that we can ever completely get rid of. Hell, even I'm still guilty of this from time to time. Even after my perception of turning 30 became more positive, the problem simply shifted from worrying about how well I'd hold up compared to other people my age, to worrying about how soon I can reach the point that my older friends in the 30s club are at. Am I on pace with where they were at my age? But then I hung out with a friend I really looked up to on my last birthday. I just had a feeling they were the person I really needed to talk to on this day. We watched Vampire Hunter D, Howl's Moving Castle, and funny YouTube poops.
The doctor told me any nice hot 33-year-old moms can shower with the doctor.
It was a fun time. They haven't messaged me ever since. And while I am still a little sad about that, it doesn't devalue what they did for me that day or what I took away from that experience. The gesture might not have meant much in their head, but it did to me. Everyone takes life at their own pace, and that's okay. There's no one set pace for everything in life. People take different parts of their lives in different strides. Life's not this linear thing where you get badge checked at the gate to adulthood, and you gotta have all 8 of them to get in. It's more like having individual stat checks at certain points in your life, and sometimes you're ahead of the game, in other areas, you're just not quite there yet. Believe me, you've reached milestones in your life that other people wish they had. There are a lot of things I personally viewed as minuscule that a lot of people wish they could have done already. The person I looked up to so much didn't have their driver's license at the time I last spoke with them. And I've been driving for almost a decade now, what? The fact that I even have people generously supporting me on Patreon, purely out of kindness, no matter how much or little, is not something most people can brag about, and I'm truly grateful for it. You may be behind in some areas, but believe me, in the eyes of other people, they're fixated on the points you're ahead in. Unless you're the inferior sibling, but that's a whole other complex for another video. So if there's one thing you should take away from this video, it's you do you. I know that's easier said than done depending on what kind of family, peers, and upbringing you have. Hell, maybe the life you're happy with is the average 30-year-old corporate worker life. Maybe it's treated you a lot better than others. Maybe you're fine working any kind of job as long as you make enough and still have time to yourself. Maybe you're fine easing up on the movies, books, or games you grew up with, or perhaps you just straight up don't need them to have a significant presence in your life anymore. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. This isn't me trying to say, you're boring and worthless unless you don't nerd out in your 30s. That just goes without saying. But honestly, we've all heard plenty of lectures growing up about how life's always changing and we can't stay stagnant. While that is true, it doesn't mean you have to force yourself to change. And by no means do you have to force yourself to be a certain way by a certain age. Maturity doesn't necessarily come with age, it comes with experience. So if you want to grow as a person, the best thing you can do is just live the best life you can, and do what you gotta do to enjoy it at least.
I'm searching too.
For your light? Don't lose sight of it.
Sorry if this video felt a little disorganized. This was more of a scripted ramble than my usual video essay format. This wasn't really meant to be helpful to anyone, moreover just my own personal feelings on the matter. I've been dying to get a video out on this channel for a while now, and every time I keep saying I'm gonna be more active here, I'm not. I have another idea for a video that I'd like to get out this year, ideally. For those of you who are new here, I have another channel where I talk about video games. I mostly talk about Atlas games, but I may or may not be working on a Kingdom Hearts video soon. We'll see. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon, hopefully.